Okay, time to fit the cowl onto the rest of the airplanes. We're sitting here with the fuselage finished, boot cowl installed, engine has been installed, propeller has been installed, and there's lots of detail on this in my forum post. It'll show you how to connect the bulkhead to the prop. And of course, there's two ways you can do it. Make sure you're doing it with the lip forward, of course. Once you do that, then, I don't know if you can see up in there, probably not. Let me get a flashlight. You can see up in there the baffles. See the baffles up there that we installed? So the baffles are there. And it's pretty up in this area right there. If you look in the forum post, I tell you, but you have to be sure the height of that baffle is not too high. And then, of course, you can see the seals that are there. So it's real tight right there. You see it's really laid over. And when you put the top half of the cowl piece on right here, it will actually push down and get very close to hitting the top of that oil cooler where the baffle is right there. So it's important to go in my post and you'll see how high. Make sure you measure that baffle height off of there. It's not too high. Then when you put the seals up, it's going to bend over. So anyway, it's pretty stiff, you know, when you first put it, because the rubber seals are kind of stiff like this. So what I did is took the first half of the top half of the cowl, I put it into place, and I put a lot of, this is just like old diving weight bags, which are like 5 pounds a piece, in another bag. Just a lot of weight right there to push down and just let it hold. I actually just put it up there and let it sit for a day before I even got started. Okay, so you'll have to put the second half, on. From the factory, it already comes all matched up. This is my latest one. That's pretty cool. They even put the door on and the attach fittings right there, little quarter turn fittings. So also you can take this side off. This is a good time that you can go in and make sure with your mixture right there. There's your mixture arm right there. You can go in there and make sure you're not hitting the cowling. When it's down to the full rich position, which is downward, make sure it's not hitting the cowling here anywhere. And same thing, you can go up in there and you can see where your EGT probes come out, that you had them clocked enough that they're not touching. This front one is pretty close for me, but it's not touching. The second one's okay. So anyway, it gives you a chance to look around. When you put this cowl on, you might just go ahead and pull your mixture knob out, back out to lane. That moves the arm up and gets it out of the way while you're wrestling around with it. Then once you get in a position, you can push the mixture knob back in. It'll push the arm down, and just make sure you got clearance that it's not hitting it and stopping it from going to full rich. Okay. All right. So if you go again to my forum post, I've got detailed pictures and explanations of how you do this, but essentially I'm going to show you all these layers of tape. So the first thing I did, and you can't really see it because this cowl is overlapping, but the first thing I did is this first layer of tape, and this is a 1-inch tape. This first layer of tape right here, that you can't see it again, but the front edge of it goes right up to the edge of the boot cowl, right where the lip drops. So this is 1 inch going out to where, and then making it very straight along this edge of the lip on the boot cowl before it drops down and you have the lip. Of course, this cowl is going over that lip. Get this light fixed a little better. So the cowl is going over that lip, and of course it's too much. And that's why we've got to trim it. We want to trim it to fit perfectly to this. So first layer of tape, get that light fixed. You're going to line it up so the front forward edge of this tape, this first tape right here, is around the boot cowl. That's doing two things. One is protecting the boot cowl. And then the second thing is you want to make sure it's exactly lined up on that front lip, right on the edge, because we're going to use this basically as kind of a scribe line later. I actually, when I first put this on, I went ahead and just loosely put another wrap of tape to get it a little further back to make sure when I was shoving this forward that I wasn't getting into my boot cowl and scratching the paint or anything. So just as protection. So all the way around the boot cowl, forward part of this tape right on the forward edge before the lip, okay? Then go ahead and get your boot cowl, your cowl installed, put the two halves together, Put you some screws in to make sure it's holding it tight. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna come to the front and you're gonna pull this cowl, everything forward as far as you can to where it hits the back of the prop bulkhead right here. Okay, so bring it as far forward as you can. And it won't be very far, so there's not a lot of room. Another thing is there are some bolts. This prop, if I can show them to you, right here. The prop hub here mounts to this bulkhead with 4 bolts. It's this bolt here. It's going through there. And then there's on the back side, on the other side of this bulkhead, there's a nut and that bolt protrudes. There's 4 of those, all 4 corners there. Now what happens is that bolt head, the end of the bolt and the nut, you know, so you got the nut on it and 2 or 3 threads sticking out. It will actually, this cowl here, the top and the bottom half, you'll know, is cut, you know, with a half circle already here to fit up and go around your prop. It's not cut enough. You need to cut it out more. So you need to go in there and just get you a plug, find out where this is on your cowling, and go ahead. You might have to fit it the first time, then take it loose and take it off, and take your I use a Dremel tool with a saw with a circular blade on it, and then cut this out wider so that when as this rotates, that ends of those screw heads and nuts won't hit the cowling right here. Okay, so just cut this part of the cowl, cut this circle back until it's clear, it's wide enough of a cut to where that doesn't touch. Okay, then you put it back together. Okay, so got lots of weights pushing this down. We got so then you would have your cowl. You pull. I forgot to tell you that we're gonna go up here. We're gonna mark on your tape. You can't see it now, but the first wrap of tape that I had right here, I had a mark that showed the very center of the boot cowl on the boot cowl tape. And then I measured on the cowl itself, I measured the distance on this top piece from here all the way around to the other side, and it's 44 1/4 inches. So then I measured 22 1/8 up to here, and at 22 1/8, which is the center of it, then I made a mark with a Sharpie, and you can't see it because it's covered with the tape, but I made a mark with the Sharpie. So it was, I know that was the center of this cowl. So then I slid when I fitted the cowl on here, I slid it up and I made sure I shifted the cowl back and forth until I had the center of the cowl line up with the center of the boot cowl. Okay, so that's the first thing you're doing. Then we're coming back to the front and, you know, grab your hands in here and just pull the whole cowl forward as far as you can until it hits the spinner bulkhead. And you know you got your rubber baffle seals here. You'll have room between them and this front. So you're pulling it all the way forward. And once it's forward, you want to make sure you got it left or right, the right amount. So see, kind of say looking straight forward where I'm at with this screw over here. You can come over here and see I'm just the same on this side. So I'm just getting a distance from the prop, the same amount, so it's nice and even. You can look from the side edge and make sure your gaps, the top and the bottoms, you know, are the same. So you got it, you know, pulled forward as much as you can. So then go back and double check your center mark. Make sure you're still lined up with the center. So once your cowl center mark is lined up with the center mark on the boot cowl, and in the front of it, you got pulled all the way forward, hitting the prop spinner bulkhead equally all the way around and centered left to right. So you got the same reveal left to right. Okay, then what we're gonna do is come back over here and what we're gonna do now, because when we put the cowl on, it is overlapping the boot cowl, obviously. So this right here, this edge that you see, that's the edge of the cowl, and it's overlapping the boot cowl. So the lip is back here. So the way it works out pretty good is then take another piece of 1-inch tape, just so you got one underneath here. Okay, there's 2 layers of tape right here. There's one on the bottom, you kind of see right there. There's one on the bottom, that's the original piece of tape that was lined up with the front edge of the boot cowl before the lip. And then what I do is I go back around with a second piece of tape and I line this second piece of the tape up with the back of this one piece of tape, and it will overlap the boot cowl, okay? And you go all the way around like that. You'll see it'll be pretty consistent, but it might be different. See, down here it seems to get a little narrower in some of these areas. But what you're doing now, you're basically scribing exactly the contour. Underneath here then is the edge of that boot. With this, when you pull this up, it's gonna match the edge of this boot cowl perfectly, okay? So that's to here. Okay, so there's an inch from there to there. So underneath this tape, that is the edge of the boot cowl right now, of where the lip starts. The lip will start right here and go down. So then what you want to do is to give ourselves a 1/4 inch. If we cut it right there, it would go down and it would drop right directly into the lip and fit perfectly. But we want at least a 1/4 inch forward, right? So we'll need to slide it back a 1/4 inch. So take a 1/4 inch fine line tape, or tape whatever, but a 1/4 inch tape, I use fine line, and do the same thing, then bring it and put this aft side of it completely flush right along the edge of this first tape, or this top tape that we put in, okay? So what we did is we took, this is the edge of the cowl, boot cowl. Now this is a 1/4 inch further, okay? And that's where we're gonna cut. We're gonna cut, let me get a Sharpie, I'll show you. We're gonna cut right here is our cut line. We're gonna cut it right here, okay? So then what I did is, once you put this 1/4 inch fine line in, then come back, because we're gonna cut this side right here. So then I come back and take another 1 inch piece of tape, and I run the aft side of it flush with this forward side of this 1/4 inch all the way around, okay? Just perfectly matching this edge, okay? So now what I'm gonna get ready to do is I'm gonna take all these other tapes loose, because this, now I'm gonna I'll pull the 1/4 inch off, I quarter this, take this 1 inch tape off, and then I'm gonna remove the boot cowl, and I'm gonna make my cut right nice and pretty along this edge, which will be the green tape there, will be the edge of the cowl that where you're gonna cut. And then you put it back on, it's gonna be cut here. You're gonna have to push it forward into the lip where to meet flush with this cowl. It should be perfect. And that's gonna give you your 1/4 inch gap when you get done between your prop hub and the front of your cowl when you push the cowl back in, okay? Giving you your perfect 1/4 inch distance over here. Okay, so that's pretty much how you do it. And that'll make it a perfect fit. And again, I just use a Dremel tool. It's like unplug my light here. It's always fun doing these with one hand. So then I just take my Dremel with a blade on it, and I'll set the cowl, put it up here, and then I'll just nicely, and in fact, what you may want to do is even run another layer of tape exactly identical on top of this to give you a little thicker edge. Then when you run your saw blade along it, putting your Dremel on this side, you can actually rest one side of the Dremel, forget what you call it, the part where the blade goes into. You can rest it on here and then just walk it right along that edge nice and slow, or right along this edge nice and slow of that tape, and give you a nice cut. And then take some sandpaper, and go along that edge and just gently, clean it off nice. Once we do that, I don't think I'll go over that, but once you've got it cut, you put it back on and fit it, realign your center, you mark here, make sure everything looks good, and then you're going to start, per the manual and everything, we'll start drilling our holes that it's shown along here, through here. Remove the boot cowl. You'll have to widen these holes on the cowl itself. But then the holes that went through are going to be our holes that we're going to then go back and install the nut plates all around the lip and the boot cowl. I may come back and show you that, but probably not. That's pretty self-explanatory, and we know how to do that. It's in the manual, and also if you go again to my forum post, in there, it gives you some details about doing that. It's not critical because we're just marking the holes, drilling them, spaced out. There are, the original manual did not have any of this information in it, no diagrams or anything, and I'm not sure if the latest one update that they just did in Dropbox does or not, but I did attach the 3 drawings that related to the cowl that showed your hardware, your drilling distances, and so forth. These documents here are in my forum, so you can download them and print them off if you need them. There's three pages like that. Much of this you don't need because, like I say, they've already installed the oil latch doors, and that's all covered in the forum post as well. But anyhow, that should get you going, and looking forward to getting Old Glory going here. Get the granddaughter's Christmas present out of the way. She's not looking at this video, so she won't see it, but we got more to go. This will be a whole American flag. It'll come up here after I get the window, and it'll be an American flag coming across here. Just all carbon fiber stripes and so forth on Old Glory. So she's gonna be a pretty one. All right, hope it helps.